unmute.
Oops, sorry. Thanks, Sangam. That was a good, quick overview to start with. Now, in the context of IT security, we keep those. Phishing is one of them, encryption, then ransomware, etc. So, can you just so that we can all make sense when we come across articles or warnings in this respect? Can you throw some light on that? What some of these common terms mean in simple terms?
Yeah, sure. So phishing is something which is done for information harvesting. So information harvesting is collecting someone's information without their willingness or tricking them to share their information. So that is phishing. So phishing happens through email. So you might get an email which says, hey, your account with so-and-so bank, I'm not taking any names. So your account with so-and-so bank has been locked or frozen because you are involved in some illegal activities and you are under monitoring. So people get scared. So what they do is they won't even check the authenticity of the sender of that email. It doesn't take more than a minute to find out or use the common sense to find out whether this sender is a genuine sender or this was sent by a domain which is not linked with that bank at all, which is easy to find out. So all these emails have header information. So you can find out from the header from where it has come. So there are a lot of examples. You just Google it saying that phishing emails examples. You get a lot of nice infographics which clearly says what's a good email and what is a suspicious looking email. So this email will have a link. So there are three categories there as well. So either if you're opening the email, it might send a response back. If you are clicking on that link, it will give another response back. If you are clicking and you are entering your personal details in that, it will send another information. So these are different layers on that. So what happens is that a phishing email will be crafted with a suspicious site. A suspicious site will look exactly similar to the banking website. So recreation of any banking website using tools and all those things which will look exactly the similar is easy. But there are some things called certificates. So certificate-based identification of those websites which belong to the real organization like XYZ Bank or ABC Bank. So they will have those information. So you won't get the info. So you won't submit the information into the phishing site. So the phishing site, the hacker would be setting up a server for capturing this information. So the user will click on the link saying that, oh, I want my account to be unfrozen or I want my account to be active. So they went into, they go into the link, enter their username and password. So what happens? So here comes the twist. So what happens is that the hacker would have created the timer saying that they just need to be sure that the password is correct. So what they will do is like they will force you to enter first time, second time and third time. So first time they say username, password not matching. So you'll get panicked. So you will enter the username, password. So 3 times you enter the same thing, the hacker will know that this is the real password. So they will capture the information and saying that thank you. They will have a pop-up message which says, thank you, your account is verified, you can be happy. So the account is compromised. So this is phishing. So there are a lot of ways in which, so there are a lot of anti-phishing softwares which can be enabled on a lot of emails. So organizations can have an anti-phishing server or anti-phishing solution to make sure that they can actually block this kind of messages, filter those messages and stuff like that. So there are a lot of techniques which are currently happening. It's like even before the user is clicking on that, there are automated ways to find out when they click, does it go to a specific server or not, or what kind of server it goes to. All these things can be done by the solution itself. So that is phishing and there is a prevention for that. The other one is like ransomware. So ransomware is something like, if you think about the old Jose Prakash movies. So Jose Prakash movies, like he might be kidnapping someone and sending the note saying that your person is kidnapped. So this is the ransom, you pay 1 lakh and then we will release the person. So that is ransom. So ransom and software have combined together in the digital age. So what happens is that ransomware they will infect your system, and then they will delete the files, lock the system, and you will not get access to that. And then they say that there will be a pop-up message in your system saying that your system is controlled by us. If you want it to be released, pay this much, and that this much have to be paid in Bitcoin. So it is also nice, like you cannot trace the Bitcoin, so it is perfectly fine and stuff like that. So that is ransomware. The other category is crypto ransomware. Crypto ransomware is slightly more dangerous because crypto ransomware comes with an encryption protocol or encryption routine. So encryption is like conversion of your plain text into ciphertext. So a simple example is like you have rice, you grind it, you make it the maavu. So from the maavu, you cannot find out from which rice it was made. It's the same thing, like you grind the rice and you make the maavu and then you make dosa or idli. By eating the idli, you cannot say that, oh, this is from double horse or this is made from this one. You cannot make that out. So it is not that much easy. So in encryption, a reverse is slightly different. So that is why we call it as a one-way function. One-way function means it always goes in one way. Like you smoke cigarette, then smokes will come, but you cannot smoke smokes and cigarette will never be made out of that. So it's the reverse or the converse does not happen like that. So a one-way function is mainly to make sure that the reverse or the reverse engineering is not applicable. So what they do is from a crypto ransomware, they will encrypt the system so that you cannot have access. And these people also are really professional, or they appear to be really professional. They'll say that if you want, we can give you a key so that you can decrypt 5 files so that you know that this works, and then you pay us more. So you pay $100 first, and then after you see that everything is fine, you pay maybe more. So then they know that you will be paying because you need the data. So there are some remediation measures, or there are some standard approaches. One is obviously having a good setup backup routine. So you need to constantly back up the data which is on your system onto a USB drive or to a network drive or to a cloud storage and stuff like that. So whatever happens to the system, you are not impacted. And the second thing is never pay ransom, because if you pay ransom, then the party on the other end will know that, yes, this person is willing to pay more. So let me increase. They say that, okay, you are ready. In the old case, like if you are ready to pay, Jose Prakash was decent. Like you pay 1 lakh, he will release the person in the movie. But in the case of ransomware, it does not get released like that. So if you're ready to pay 100, it might go to 500. If you're ready to pay 500, it might go to $1,000. So never pay ransom for that. So there are different ways and means in which you can protect. And there are a lot of traditional, or there are a lot of standard endpoint security solutions available which you can use it. So that will block and that will maintain. All these things are possible.
All right, thanks, Sangam. Just a reminder to everyone once again, as Sangam speaks on a particular topic, if you have any questions related to that particular topic which is being spoken about, please do type the question in the chat box, and we can take up those questions. There's one which is not directly related, but just going through the questions. One question that I saw is, how safe is storing passwords in iPhone? And the one more that came up is a world without passwords possible at all?
Yeah, so there are 3 things. One is, don't save your passwords on your device. So use a password vault. I think one of the participants had typed in saying that use password vault. Yeah, password vault is safe, but you have to keep some things in mind. So there are a lot of spywares which looks like password vaults. So be extremely careful from where you download. Look at the reputation of the download, and then you start using it. And all this password vault. So password vault is like it's like a bank locker. So you keep all your passwords in your locker, and then you have a master key. So there is slight difference there because only you have the key. In the case of bank locker, you will have a key and the branch manager or the bank manager will have the second key. So you need to have both keys. So in the case of password vault, you will have a master key. Make sure that master key is the toughest. because it's the key to the kingdom. It's like you have 5 houses and each of the house have the same master key, and you lose the master key, then anyone who wants to access all these 5 houses can definitely get access to all these 5 houses with that. So you have to be very clear. So there are a lot of spywares, there are a lot of Trojans which are there in the market. So be extremely careful what kind of password vaults you use. You can use LastPass, you can use not an identity safe. So these are some of the examples. And is there a way, like, so don't store your passwords on your device. It's not safe. And don't store the passwords on the browser. So if you are using Chrome as a browser, you will get an option, remember the password. So please don't do that. And also, there are a lot of plugins, or there are a lot of extensions of Chrome which has been found vulnerable, or which has been found spying on users. So be extremely careful. So CERT, which is Computer Emergency Response Team in India, had released a notification which says there are around 100 plus Google Chrome extensions are found vulnerable. So you have to be extremely careful what you download, for what purpose you have. Plugins and extensions always help in making our lives easier, but you have to be very careful from where you download. Okay, that is one thing. So is there a world with without passwords possible? Yes, that is the way in which world is moving forward, because there is a lot of identity proofing. So identity proofing is another concept where one person, one identity. The problem with India is, like, it's happening in different phases. So we don't have one person, one identity. We have Aadhaar, but it may not be linked with all the other details. So then it is not a one person, one identity, right? So there is a problem with that. But other developed countries like US, Canada, or European countries, UK, Germany, Australia, the advantage there is only one person, one identity. So if you have a social security number, or if you have a driver's license number, you can track a person, and no 2 persons will have the same identity, and one person cannot have 2 identities. So the identity proofing is much more easier in those advanced countries or developed countries. Now, even after having that, there are a lot of places in which you can compromise that, and then you can leave that information out in plain sight and stuff like that. So it is a different topic. But yes, the way in which world is moving forward is the passwordless identity proofing, wherein which that identity would be used, and third-party identity providers would act as, like, we call it as a federated identity. So that can be used as an identification. So let's say banks can act as your identity provider. So you log into a bank, and from there you access. So bank will have all your identification information. You log into the bank, they will have a series of questions like OTPs, multi-factor, and stuff like that. And once they know it is you who are trying to access maybe a government website, so they will give access to that. So the banks will pass on the information to the government website, and so that's how it works. So passwordless, yes, it is possible.
All right. Sorry, there was a slight bandwidth was broken in between.
Okay.
Yes, Sangam, that was very good explanation. You know, it's really interesting to know that some of the common tools that we use, like a Chrome browser, it keeps offering to save passwords all the time, right? Yet it is not safe to do that, is what you said. Now, along the similar lines, there are a lot of common applications that we use on the mobile phone. Recently, India banned 59 different applications, you know, because of safety concerns and also because they were Chinese origin and whatnot. There was a lot of discussion in India about the safety and security of this particular platform that we're using right now, Zoom. So can you shed some light on the safety and security aspects of Zoom? And also your opinion about, you know, the banning of these applications like TikTok, the 59 different applications. You know, what kind of vulnerabilities do those apps pose to our mobile phone? Can you throw some light on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So, okay, I don't want to go into the politics of banning those apps. Okay, so let me be very clear. I will come from a technology background. So
Of course, yeah.
So because then overnight I might become a celebrity. I don't want that. So so all these apps which are banned uh, due to many reasons. The obvious reasons is all these things are originating from a specific geography or specific country. Now there is no clear indication where the data is stored. Now whether the data is stored in that specific country from where it originates. In this case, it was China. So these Chinese apps, are they collecting information from people and then storing it in their servers? There was not much of clarity. So the apps in those category, like around 59 apps, were predominantly Chinese origin. And then I don't think Zoom was in that banned list because Zoom is not of Chinese origin, because the CEO is from China, but he's in US, so he's a US citizen. He came for his studies and stuff like that. So so that's the reason for that. So now so all these apps, so let's take TikTok for example. TikTok is a good fun tool or fun app and stuff like that. But we have to keep in mind that anything which is fun or which is free, it is the people or their information which is getting traded there, or we are the product which is being sold. If there is anything which is free to us, we are the product which is being sold. It's the same thing for all social media platforms. So TikTok is one of those examples. It's very nice. It's fun. A lot of people became celebrities in TikTok. I saw one discussion where there were a lot of TikTok celebrities sharing their experience, life before banning and life after banning TikTok and stuff like that. So this is interesting. But the problem with that is, so we know that social media collects a lot of information from people, or the people who are subscribing to that, or people who are signing in for that social media usage. The problem with that is they collect some information. So Facebook is already in fire for collecting information, trying to influence elections and our opinions and stuff like that. So this is something which is out there in the public. We saw that all those things happening live on congressional hearings and stuff like that. So, but TikTok was capturing more information and it was getting stored. What information was getting shared, what information was getting stored, it was slightly risky, and it was over a non-encrypted channel. So non-encrypted channel, anyone could actually intercept and see what is happening. So I have to explain what is a non-encrypted channel. A non-encrypted channel is like, think about in the 70s and 80s, when we had postcards. So postcard, you send a letter to someone else. It might go through Muttaram Kunnu PO or whatever PO it is. That is fine. But anyone in the entire chain can actually read what is written in the postcard. So an unencrypted channel of communication means anyone can actually interfere, snoop, and see what exactly is going on, because then they can see everything happens in clear text. Now you have to keep in mind, all email transactions which we do over internet, over free emails, are happening over clear text. So if it is not encrypted, if it is not encrypted using a specific certificate or key, anyone can actually see in the entire transit, finding out what exactly is going on. So what happens is that in this non-encrypted transaction, it was easier to find that he has actually done all these things possible, and then making sure that these things are protected. So that is happening over a unencrypted channel. So TikTok there was a lot of security articles on that saying that TikTok actually sent this information over an unsecure channel for storage. So anyone could actually intercept and find out what's going on. The other thing with TikTok is that even though our sound or our voice and all those things were masked by the videos or those by the audios in the background, we never know, like they can store it, right? So when they store it, they can store a video sample, they can store an audio sample. So all these things can be possible because they are listening to whatever we are saying. This can be used for multiple things. Let's say I will give another example, saying that you might get a blank call on your phone, on your mobile phone. You might say hello, hello, hello 3-4 times, and they say, who is this? So the person on the other end can actually record that conversation and use that voice sample for voice authentication systems like banking. Can be used for that as an identification purpose to bypass certain security controls. Can be used for multiple manipulation techniques. So you get an audio sample, you can do multiple things. I don't need to go into the details, but you can do multiple things. So these apps were banned mainly because of that, like where the data is residing, data residency. Should the data from Indian consumers reside outside India? That's a big question. So data residency or data privacy is a bigger concern. So that may be one of the reasons it was blocked. And then obviously there are other reasons because of the border tension and stuff like that. So this is something which has to kept in mind. So this Chinese internet censorship is world famous because you cannot have encrypted traffic exiting from mainland China to internet. They will have to decrypt that, monitor what is happening, and then only they will allow the internet access because internet censorship is pretty strong there. So once the information or the data is residing in Chinese servers, getting access to that is pretty tough because they may not release. They might clearly say that, yes, we are not going to share this information. They will not release that. So you have to keep that in mind. So that is one thing. And the second thing is on the Zoom itself, like Zoom got into fire because they were accused of routing the traffic through Chinese servers. But right now, if you see on the Zoom meeting, there is an icon which has a check mark. There is an icon on the left corner if you are accessing from your laptop. You can see an indication which say information. So you click on these two places, then you can clearly see whether the traffic is routed through any of the servers. So if I see this, this session, you are connected to Zoom global network via data centers in India. So that means even if I am connecting, the entire transaction, traffic and everything within Zoom is happening in the Zoom data centers in India. So it is not getting routed through China. So that concern should not be a problem. Now for any online meeting or any of these remote meetings, it's a common thing is that change the passwords often, allow only people whom you know, so that people cannot brute force. Brute force is like people just push into or people just push their way into getting access to a specific meeting. So that is what brute force is. So brute force cannot happen because passwords are changed and you are following the best practices and stuff like that. So it's much more better to have it in a secure way. So everything is safe and secure if you use it in a safe and secure way. So it is as good as that. Like it could be like you can drive a Rolls Royce saying that, oh, it is ultimately safe, but if you decide to drive it over a cliff on the way to like Kudaran, and then you fall from the cliff, you are not going to be protected. Like there might be airbags and stuff like that, but it is not going to help. So you need to have that kind of safe practices, even if you are using some best of the breed security products and technologies. So the basic thing is practice security and then make sure that you follow the best practices.
Thanks, Sangam. You know, changing the passwords is something that definitely we need to get used to. We're going to change the Zoom password right after this call, right? That's something that we commit to from TMA. Now, there are a couple of things that
Yeah, we are getting more questions, right? Which is good.
One of the questions that is in the chat box. You said something about the free emails not being encrypted in transit, right? Free emails like Gmail. In contrast, when we look at WhatsApp, we often see the message that somebody is encrypted end to end. So does that mean that WhatsApp messages are more safe compared to that's one of the questions that has come up.
Yeah, so WhatsApp messages are much more secure because there is an end-to-end encryption. So there is no way you can intercept that and then find out what's going on. So that means that it is much more secure than most of the free emails what we use, webmails what we use. So that is for sure, because then any time when there is a secure code which is changing for this WhatsApp, you have to keep that in mind that yes, WhatsApp, make sure that you do the CR code, and then making sure that you just make sure that this is the right person. You can always do that. So end-to-end encryption will make sure that only the sender and the recipient can see that. So this was the reason why WhatsApp is much more dangerous, because law enforcement cannot monitor what exactly is going on with that, right? So, and WhatsApp you can fake also. There are a lot of fake WhatsApp creators. So you can create fake WhatsApp and then say that this happened or this did not happen, and then that is how you will see in the media two sides of the story, where one person would say yes, this has happened, then the other party might say it happened in a different way. So you cannot believe that unless you see it on the source or the target machine, that means on the phone. You cannot make sure that this is the real one, and it cannot be intercepted. So this was the reason why some of the agencies were saying that yes, we should have WhatsApp decryption servers within the country, so that we should be able to monitor, which is fair ask, because a lot of bad activities can happen over WhatsApp as well, because no one can monitor, right? You cannot trace a location, you cannot trace what exactly they are communicating and stuff like that. Even WhatsApp calls is a big problem, right? That is why certain countries WhatsApp calling is disabled, because it is getting blocked.
Okay, thanks, Sangam. I can see that when you talked about encryption and the features in email and WhatsApp, it is generating a lot of interest. One thing that came up, I'll hold on to the question that I had in mind a little earlier. Before that, one of the questions that came up in the chat window is, now WhatsApp, we understand it is encrypted and it's safe. Gmail may not be that safe as we thought it to be. What about cloud, Google Drive, offered by G Suite or Google? How safe is that? Is the question. That's something that we very commonly use in India.
Yeah, sure. So see, all these things like G Drive uses your Google account for logging in. So if you don't have the best practice policies for accessing G Suite or Google account, be it Gmail, G Drive, Blogger, and all those things, you don't have multi-factor, then it will be a problem. So you can use multiple things, like you can use a USB key. So a USB key is like this, you can see. So a USB key can be used. So once you enter the USB key on your computer, then only it will allow you to log in. And you cannot log in from any other device, because only you have the key, right? You log in and someone tries to log in from Mumbai, or someone tries to log in from Nigeria. It won't let that login to go through, because you are registered that. So this USB key which I showed, it's a hyper secure or secure key, which can be used for multiple things, even for your social media accounts and stuff like that. So you can do that, or you can have a Google authenticator on your phone and use that 6-digit number. It's a one-time password which keeps refreshing every 20 or every 30 seconds as a second factor for login. So you enter your username, password, and then you enter this code. So your access is much more secure. So if you have that kind of protection for your Google account, accessing G Drive or accessing G Suite, Gmail, everything is secure, right? So you have to practice doing something similar to that. And then if you have a Google authenticator, or if you get a OTP on your phone for logging into a Google services, never forward that to anyone else. Please try to make it safe and secure.
All right, thanks. So two-factor authentication is the key to protecting data when you deal with Google and Gmail, right? Now, talk about two-factor authentication, and also tying back to what you said earlier about banking security, right? You mentioned that your voice could be captured by an application like TikTok that can be used for voice recognition, which can aid online banking in certain countries. Now, that's not, as far as I know, that's not possible in India. So this, connecting these two things together, what I would like to ask is, how safe is online banking? And now also let me bring into context the fact that two-factor authentication is a mandate by RBI for online banking in India, for banking transactions in India. So given that, So you always got to have a OTP. In addition to signing into your online banking with a password, you got to have OTP authentication to make a transaction. So since that two-factor authentication is in place, is a mandate in India, given that how safe is online banking, specifically for India, and also how many people stay away from online banking because of the security concerns.
You might have to and stuff like that. Adopt this kind of when online banking started, they only had username password. But the problem with that, with online username and could hack that username and password and then get access to that. Then the second phase started by saying that, okay, instead of have a floating keyboard. So the floating keyboard will be displayed on the screen, and you have to choose the passwords, choose the password characters by clicking on those specific areas in the and they used to randomize the keyboard. So first keyboard, virtual floating keyboard mimicked. So, but what happened is that then keyboard logging trojans or this information to their hacker's website, and the hacker can actually get these videos and then they can actually play it back. So this OTP is another way of bypassing that security concern or bypassing that security lapse. So with OTP, if you are not sharing the OTP with anyone else, chances of break-in is pretty less. But you have to keep in mind that OTP is also a 6-digit number. We have not gone beyond that 6-digit. Like, so you go to a ATM machine. Why the ATM machines still have only 4-digit PIN? So there should be a reason for that. Why they still keep as 4-digit pins, right? Why they don't have more than 4 digits? So there is a reason for that. So the other thing is, if you have more security, like you keep changing the passwords and then you know from where you are accessing. If you're accessing from your personal machine, you say that you permit that system for accessing. So it will save the cookie and information from that. So then you cannot, anyone trying to access from any other website, you will get an alert. So setting alerts and monitoring alerts is of importance here, because if you don't set alerts for suspicious login or log out and all those things, then you won't know what is happening if someone else is doing that. We all saw a news article where a 16-year-old kid was using their parents' mobile phone for accessing online classes, but they used 16 lakhs. They spent that on PUBG. So you have to keep all those things in mind, because whenever the alerts and all those things came, like all the messages, he deleted from the phone, from the parents' phone. So the parents didn't even realize this has happened. To me, the parents did not employ the basic security things, like they should have set alerts to multiple emails. So the husband and wife should get alert, so that text message should be sent and email alert should be sent. All those things you can set thresholds depending on what bank you are doing. More where you can set your own alerts saying that 2500 rupees and more, or 2000 like successful approach. And of course, you need to have a good security protection for the device from where you are accessing as well. And then you should always keep patching stuff like that, because patching is all about patching the weaknesses what you have on the system. So you need to definitely have. So there are, as long as there is world, there will be security vulnerabilities, there will be security weaknesses, and we need to create patches, and we need to make sure that we can actually bridge that gap, and then make sure that all these accesses are happening over a secure channel.
Right, that makes sense. So it's a lot of, it's the prudence that matters a lot for safeguarding your own device, right? Laptop or mobile or whatever. Now, there's a very interesting came up when we had an internal discussion. Members, chartered account. Typically, a problem that is faced by many people work, many CA practitioners. A lot of sensitive client data sits on the computer. Sorry, I got disconnected.
I think.
Am I audible?
Yeah. You're losing in between, Francis.
Yes. So what I was asking is, office computers in many people's offices, right? How do you make sure that this is protected? I mean, how do you prevent people from just carrying data home? They might be stick a memory stick and carry it home, or they a Google Drive folder, and they can take the data, potential data of the clients.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are the safeguards against that?
Yeah, sure.
For small folks, not getting into expensive IT solutions, security solutions. What is easily?
Yeah, sure. So okay, so that's an interesting discussion, because now we are shifting gears, and then we are moving into a concept called data loss prevention. So a data loss prevention is like preventing exfiltration of data. So exfiltration of data. So we have seen in many movies, right? Many movies or Netflix, now it is available in India as well. So we have seen Netflix series and stuff like that. So there are 4 phases for any successful operation. Like when I say operation means, let's say a military operation. So you have 4 different phases, or a secret operation like from commandos and stuff like that. There are 4 different phases. So discovery, infiltration, capture, exfiltration. So these are the 4 different phases. So discovery is finding out where the people are hiding or where the kidnapped person is. Then infiltration is getting into the place where they are hiding. Capture is like capturing the person who has been kidnapped. And exfiltration is like successfully getting back home or getting back to the base from the. So this is what happens from a normal commando operation and stuff like that. So in the case of data, or in the case of cybersecurity, these 4 phases are applicable, like discovery, infiltration, capture, exfiltration. So discovery, like anyone having access to that computer, if they are using the same login and there is no folder protection and all those things which are being put, they will have access to everything. So it's like a free Monday for anyone who having access to that specific computer. Second thing is, like, once they know there is data that is discovered, then data capture happens. So data capture means, now they will have a mind, okay, I need to take this customer information from here outside. So 2 ways they can take it out. Okay, 4 ways they can take it out. So first way is try to send it as an email attachment. That you can block by having proper email filter with those keywords and the patterns, data patterns. We call it as data pattern. So user data pattern would be like specific, like customer number. So customer name, address, phone number, their PAN number, their Aadhaar number, all those identification things, right? So that will be one line. Then the second line will be for second customer. So that will be the pattern. So based on the data pattern, we can actually create that rule on the emails so that we can block that when they try to send it as an email attachment. So that is one option. Second way of taking this data exfiltration is like copy it over a USB. I am going home. I won't come from tomorrow. Thank you. You have seen in one movie in which Jagati was being fired from a workshop and he actually wanted to carry a couple of spanners with him. So it is as simple as that. You can copy the information on a USB and then say, Namaste, I'm going, and then they can take it out. So that is another data exfiltration. The third thing is they can take a screenshot using their mobile phone. When the data is displayed on the screen, they can take a picture. You cannot block that. There is no technical way of blocking that. Fourth thing is they can take a printout and take the paper with them. So they don't know. So we don't know the data is going out. So these are 4 different ways in which you can take data from that specific computer, right? Now you can block printing specific set of files or documents from that computer. You can do that. So that is another technique which can be used for blocking that. For copying it over to a USB drive, you can create another policy with the same data pattern saying that user customer name, address, phone number, Aadhaar, PAN number. If this matches, it cannot be copied. So you can put that policies and then it cannot be copied on a USB drive. But the most dangerous is like taking a screenshot or taking a picture using the mobile phone. You cannot do. So this is one of the reasons why some of the call centers or the backend processing centers, they don't allow personal mobile phones into the floor. They actually keep it safe before they enter into the floor, before they enter the shift. So this is the reason for that, because once they do it, then there is no technology which can actually block that, right? Because no screen will go blank when you are actually pointing a camera towards that. So that is not possible. So these are some of those things. Now for all these things, you have to keep in mind, you need to have a good identity and access management. So identity and access management, any new trainee coming in or any new person who is coming on for training, they need to be assigned a specific username and password or identity to enter into that system. So they use their username password to log in. Once they log in, then their access within the system has to change because you need to provision that. So they will not have access to that, or they will have only read access. They cannot modify, they cannot copy. So these things can be set as part of that.
Running out of time, so I'm going to switch to some of the generic questions that I've been I noticed earlier, and I thought of waiting for the end. So one of them is, what is the best connecting machines remotely? Some diagnosis and things like that.
Okay, so accessing machines remotely in a secure way.
Yep.
Yeah, so there are different tools. Like most of these tools have an encrypted channel between from which machine you are trying to access and then from to which machine you are accessing. So the entire channel is communicated with the best in the industry encryption standards. So RDP is one of those things, like remote desktop from Microsoft is one of those kind of tools. So you can use VNC. So these are different. Technologies, or these are different. There are different kinds of tools which are available for doing that. These are some of the examples. You can have a safe and secure access.
What about some of the other, screen sharing tools? Like it's not exactly screen sharing. It's also taking control of your machine. When let's say you make a call to Dell. If you're using a Dell computer, you place a call to Dell. They might remotely take control of your machine, right? Through and there are free available.
Yeah, exactly. So when you are giving control or when you are letting someone else to remotely control your machine, always have this basic safe practice. Don't let them control when you are not there. So that means when they are controlling, okay, I'll take a break, let me have a coffee or let me have my lunch and come back, then you won't know what is happening. Now, all these organizations have strict policies. So they'll be recording the entire session as what all that remote person was doing on your system. So it is accountable and it is auditable. So they are definitely getting audited. They are getting accountable for what they are doing on that remote support session. So remote support sessions are good, and just make sure that they are using, you can always ask, are you using an encrypted tool for accessing my system to fix my problem? Or if you are not, then you have the right to say, I don't want your help. So you should be able to find out another support source which can give you an encrypted or a safe and secure way of taking remote control and then fix it. But keep in mind that when they're trying to fix it, don't have your confidential information displayed on the screen. So they will, it's a standard practice that they will ask you, if there is any private or personal information on the screen, please close that. That is their standard call script. So it is still okay.
All right. I think one last question that we will discuss from the generic section posted so far. There's a question from Selvam asking, please advise about the security of Linux-based open source email servers. Is it basically secure by default, or can we make it more secure with third-party tools? Now, I think that this question assumes higher significance because especially in schools and educational institutions, we are seeing a trend of Windows-based solutions to Linux solutions, Linux and Ubuntu and other versions of Linux, right? And the schools may not be in a position to have expensive solutions for IT security. So this question is significant from that point of view also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So anything which is open source, the problem with that is open source is available for all. All means even good people and bad people. So the bad people can run tools against it and see what is the weakness, what is the vulnerability and stuff like that, and then they can create the tools. So that is with open source. So open source problem is that. So that is the reason why you see more Android based attacks, because Android is open source. So you will see more kind of attacks happening on Android. I'm not saying iOS is safe and secure. iOS also faces their own attack. The attack vectors are different, but all these things will have to be kept in mind. So now Linux open source based mail servers or application servers which are being used for multiple purposes, they have good amount of protection, but you should always do an audit on that. There are a lot of tools which can scan the system and see what are the gaps, what are the loopholes, what are the missing patches and stuff like that. And then you should put more controls on top of that. Then it is good, because let it be open source, but you should make it secure. If you cannot make it secure, then running open source is a recipe for a perfect disaster. So you have to keep that in mind. There are a lot of tools like scanning tools, like Nessus is one of the tool, like I just used a name. So Nessus is one of the tool which can be used for scanning any type of machine and see what's the kind of vulnerability. There are a lot of vulnerability scanners. So vulnerability scanner would actually do the scanning and find out this patch is missing, or this password is not complex, this password is not changed for the past 30 days. I would highly recommend using any of those tools for running the scan, and then make sure that you are actually changing those things. So you have to keep those things in mind. Online learning is another problem, because there are different ways in which data can be captured and exfiltrated from those online learning as well. The other tip to that is, like, if kids are attending the session, make sure that on the video, like some of the teachers say that yes, they should be sharing the video, turning on the camera from their devices and all those things. It is perfectly fine, but make sure that the camera is actually facing a wall where they are not exposing too much of information on like what's going on behind, right? Like they're sitting in the kitchen, there are some discussions happening with both the parents or with other kids in the background. So all these things are information which is not required to be shared. So we have to keep that in mind. The other thing is with online learning, the other concern what most of the people have is, like, I am giving my devices, or I'm giving smart devices to my kids because online learning, they need that. So how am I protected? How do I know what my kids are doing? So the best thing is talk with your kids. That is the best approach. But you should always have tools in hand or available handy with you, so that you can also monitor what is going on. Like olden days, like when I was growing up, like I will just tell my parents I'm just going out, or I'm just going out for a movie, watching in Ramdas Theatre and stuff like that. So I used to live close to Ramdas Theatre, so that's my background. So it becomes easier for me to just tell and go. Like, so I never used to deviate. So sometimes like I will go, but I may not go to watch the movie, and then we decide let's go to Swapna or let's go to Joe's. So this is how it used to happen.